The major financial news right now is the threat by China to put retaliatory tariffs against the United States after Donald Trump just put another 10% of tariffs on 300 billion worth of Chinese goods. Now, Wall Street analysts seem awfully alarmed about China's threatened retaliation, that mostly being cutting off agricultural purchases. Now, Wall Street is saying that the proposed tariffs on a scale from 1 to 11 to 1 to 10 will be 11. That's what they're afraid China is going to do, and it seems like China might be playing pretty serious this time and might be looking to not just retaliate, but hurt the United States as well. Now, China responded on Monday when President Trump put the U.S. will put additional 10% tariffs on 300 billion worth of Chinese goods. Now, it seems to me that China might just have had enough of this. There was just a recent failed round of talks in which Trump said China was unwilling to negotiate. ... Now, we know China is willing to negotiate. They're probably just not willing to accept the nonsense that Trump wants. So, now Trump wants to label China a currency manipulator. Now, this accusation tends to be very serious because when you use those specific terms, you're kind of implying that you're going to go to the International Monetary Fund and file a complaint, which means uncertainty within the market, which means uncertainty with investors, which means bad for capitalism. This would create volatility in financial markets, particularly people in China who owe money in the U.S. and people in the U.S. who own money in China. So in other words, this could be actually damaging to both sides in the conflict. Now, the reason that the U.S. is saying this is because China allowed the RMB to drop down to a 7. That means a 7-to-1 ratio, 1 U.S. dollar to 7 RMB. And that's about the lowest it's been in about 10 years. Now, the U.S. is against that, and they consider it to be a psychologically significant threshold, this actual move. Now, the devaluation of Chinese currency makes sense from the end of the Chinese. Now, the U.S. is calling this currency manipulation, but this kind of move and this kind of control over currency is done by every country in the world. I mean, literally everybody does this. But when China does it, it's called being a currency manipulator. Now, the bank says that the drop was driven by the determination of the market to get buyers from poor countries. Now, the Chinese RMB is not a floating currency. It doesn't go by market forces. It goes very specifically by what it is that the Central Bank of China determines it to be. So this thing, it's driven by the market, is pretty much not true for the most part, but it doesn't really matter, because what they're doing is the same thing as everybody is already doing anyway. The only currency that has a floating value, that is, which is determined by its use and exchange, in other words, by the market, is actually the U.S. government. And China does manipulate that by making purchases of U.S. dollars, making the U.S. dollar high so that it's more profitable to export to the United States, etc. This has been the basis of their relationship for a long time. So China, really, what they're doing is they're decreasing the value of their currency in order to export more to other countries which aren't as wealthy as the United States and normally couldn't afford to. Because if they're not being able to ship to the United States, then they got to ship to somebody else. So they're lowering the value of the RMB in order to make it more attractive for people in countries that aren't as rich as the United States, to make up for that loss in sales. Perfectly reasonable move, and exactly what you would do, and kind of is a market kind of move. You're going to lower the price if you can't move it. I mean, that is kind of supply and demand in that situation. Now, investors are saying that this is all reaching a potentially new, very dangerous state because things are becoming much more volatile. This is also not good for people in China who owe money to banks in the United States, because this diminishes their ability to pay them back. And this potentially could have some other effects as well. A lot of them, I'm not I'm not a financial expert. I don't know exactly everything that would happen, but I do know the big things that would happen that I've already described. So the capitalist class is essentially, or at least the financial aristocracy of the capitalist class, is going out of the media and telling Trump, okay, this is going too far, this is dangerous, we're genuinely scared something bad could happen. If you push the Chinese too far, they will push back very hard, and they do have the kind of economic clout in order to do so. But I think one of the main things is that we're not at world war levels yet. Like, this isn't close enough to instigate a world war. It would have to get a lot worse in order for that to be the case. So I wouldn't worry about a war with China anytime soon. Now, with China threatening to take away basically the last of their purchases of U.S. agricultural products, this comes at a time when the Trump administration announced last month the details of a $16 billion package for U.S. farmers. Now, they have to bail them out because of the damage that Trump did in this situation to begin with. And this is pissing off a lot of farmers. They're losing a lot of money. Even this bailout package is not near where they made before, and this has turned a lot of those rural white Americans against Trump, saying they're not going to vote for him again because of it. So if this new round loss of agricultural trade with Trump happens at this particularly sensitive time when the issue of re-election is coming up, this could just wipe out the last of his support base if they fall hard enough because of him. So you can kind of see the political move that China is making at this time. So that's what I've been able to glean from this situation. Again, I'm not a financial expert, so I don't know everything that there is to know in this situation. But these are the things that I have been able to make determinations on. And that's, we're entering something that could be particularly very scary, something that could be recession causing. Because if the capitalist class is telling their own leaders, hey, this is their own representatives in Washington, hey, this is dangerous, you got to start backing down, then you know that it's pretty serious. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.